Hello and welcome to Talking Live at Starshop Studios in Times Square. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig and I am so excited to invite my friend, you know her well, Jean Chatzky. She is like my own personal therapist for finances, and this is really true. And when I was writing my book, Jean was the first person that I went to when I wanted to learn more about women, midlife, and finances. But now Jean has her 10th book, which has just come out, and it is really amazing. And
Thank
if you are somebody who doesn't really understand about finances at all, which is kind of me, sadly, even though we've been friends,
you get it.
You taught me. This is called Age Proof, and this is very much up my alley because it combines both physical well-being with your financial well-being, and they are certainly very closely related. So Jean is also, as you know, she is the financial editor for Today. She also has a podcast called Her Money, which I advise you to check out. I've certainly been on it and had a great time. And welcome.
Thank you.
So excited to have you here.
Thank you.
This is amazing.
Thanks.
And so intuitive that you put together finances impact health.
Well, I wrote it with a doctor who I met doing a television pilot that went nowhere.
Oh. See,
one of those.
Something always works out in our business.
Exactly.
Right? You never know how it's going to work out.
So his name's Mike Roizen. He is the Chief Wellness Officer at the Cleveland Clinic. And we started talking about the fact that they are pretty much inextricably linked at this point, your health and your finances. And that if you're going to live a long time, and we all have to basically bet on the fact that we're going to live a long time, you can't really have one without the other. If you've got health but not enough money, that money is not going to be able to keep you healthy as you age. And if you've got a nice, stable financial life, but you don't have health, one bad incident can just wipe you out.
That's right. And a lot of people, you know, and what we know now is that healthcare is very, very expensive. If you need any type of surgery, anything that's additional, it's very expensive. Hospital care is expensive.
And more of it is falling on your shoulders and my shoulders, right? It's sort of like what happened with retirement when companies said, hey, we don't want to give you a pension anymore. We're going to give you this nice 401k, and you're going to put your money into it, and you're going to manage it. And it's great, and it has helped a lot of people save very successfully for retirement. But healthcare is going through that transition where it is becoming more of our responsibility and less of our employers.
And when I was researching for my book, people are living longer and they want to live younger, longer.
Yes.
Life. So they really are more vibrant. You know, 60 today.
It's not old.
It's not old, and people look really great. But you're so right. And in terms of finances, it's something we really should be taught. And I know when I was younger, money was not discussed in the family. It was considered private. And I grew up, and I think we've discussed this, really thinking about money in a very adolescent kind of way, more impulsive than I probably should. So when you talk about age-proof your life, what does that mean exactly? What are people going to find out in this book?
So the subtitle of the book, of which I'm very proud, is Living Longer Without Running Out of Money or Breaking a Hip. And essentially that is what we're trying to give people. What Mike and I discovered as we were writing the book, and we started with a series of conversations about how do we get people to adopt good financial habits? How do we get people to adopt good health-related habits? It turns out that many of the strategies are exactly the same. You don't need a totally different toolbox to tackle both your health and your wealth. So we focused the book on things like automating good habits in both areas of your life, substituting. You know, it's very tough to break a bad habit, but what you can do is take a better one and put it in place of the old one, and that's an easier way to make a change. And you said you were raised to feel like finances are private. A lot of people were raised to feel like the same is true of their health. You shouldn't discuss your health. People didn't talk about the fact that maybe somebody in the family had cancer. I mean, that was just something they hid. Private doesn't mean solo. So we talk a lot in the book about how to build good teams around both areas of your life.
So do you find that the people who take care of their health are also inclined to take care of their finances? Is that what you observed?
I find that deciding that you're going to take care of one or the other helps in the other area.
Okay.
So what we do find is that as people make one change, they get better at making change. And that enables you to change in the other areas of your life too.
So it's a little bit like therapy. Once you start looking at your life and you ask yourself the question, how can I live my best life?
Yep.
How can I ensure my well-being? You know, a lot of women, and maybe men too, I don't know if this is as true for men, but when I was researching for my book, and I have to admit, I don't quite have this fear, but something similar. It's the bag lady syndrome, right? Where people worry, oh gosh, if I live a really long time, am I going to outlive my money? And people fear that over death.
I know.
And I get it, because when you're dead, you're dead. You don't really need money. But if you're living without money and you need it, that's very stressful. And I've actually treated patients that were in that situation, and it was not pretty.
It's not pretty because it doesn't allow you to live your life now. I mean, a lot of people who suffer from the fear that they're just going to run short of money are paralyzed because they haven't run the numbers. And once you run the numbers, you actually see that you're in better shape than you thought that you were. Do we have a savings problem in this country? Oh yes, we have a savings problem. But it enables you to get on a path where you know what's okay to do, where you understand what marks you have to hit. And in that way, it's very much like trying to manage your health. You know, if you know what your cholesterol is, and you know what your cholesterol is supposed to be, or you know what your weight is, and you know what your weight is supposed to be, you can aim for something. If you're just shooting in the dark, it's impossible.
So do you think the people that are more inclined to run out of money, that they put their head in the sand and they're in denial?
I think they're in denial. I think they don't. The problem with making a financial change is that you don't get to experience your good efforts until very far down the road.
Right.
And so we're all inclined to live for today, right? We're wired that way. It's what's a biology?
That's how my brain's wired. It's like today, now, this second.
But it's not just your brain. And it's not, by the way, it's not just women's brains. It is, although women get blamed for this a lot because we do 80% of the buying in America, it's not just us. It is the way human beings are wired, and that is to think about today and not tomorrow. And that's true whether you're reaching for a donut or whether you're buying a pair of shoes. And so we have to come up with ways to trick ourselves to focus on things that are, and not just tomorrow, 30 years from tomorrow, you know, way down the road, because that's what we're asking you to do when we're asking you to adopt these better habits.
No, this is how I talk to Jean when we are in private as well, because I try to pick her brain. So how do we do that? That's really hard to do.
It's really hard.
I mean, it's even hard for me to imagine myself next week or even tonight, this evening, although I'll have a pretty good chance. I'll probably be like my kid's maid. But 30 years, which is really true, 30 years from now, like, what do you do to ask yourself what you're going to want in 30 years, where your mindset is? There's so many changes that can happen.
There are, and you can't really know. I mean, there are scientists that are experimenting in labs, and they're showing us pictures of what we might look like 30 years down the road, and that seems to make us increase the amount of money that we put into savings. But I asked...
It does make it more real.
It does. It makes it more real. But I asked one of these researchers, I said, well, people say I look like my mother. Can I just look at a picture of my mother? And he said, no. Like, that won't do it. It has to actually be you. But because these solutions are sort of wishy-washy, I think you just automate yourself. And I keep saying that word. But
what does that mean exactly, automate yourself?
It means you opt for automatically saving money. Again and again and again and again, as much as you can do it. And the 401k example is a really good example, because when you take a job, the employer these days, many of them don't even ask you if you want in. They just ask you if you want out. They're going to put you in.
Okay.
And they're going to put you in, and you are going to put a certain percentage of your salary, generally 3%, not enough. You got to get it up there. But you're just going to do this. And it's going to, every time you get paid, some money's going to go, and it's going to go into savings, and you're not going to see it, and you're not going to touch it, and you're not going to spend it. So it's like it's not there.
Now, what about for somebody who's an entrepreneur? Now, a lot of millennials, and you have kids who are millennials, right?
Right. I have kids who are millennials and who are not in a plan like that. And so I've had a discussion with my son about, okay, you have a Roth IRA. We opened a Roth IRA, and every time you get paid, you decide how much money are you going to kick in. But it has to happen automatically. You know, we do all this banking online, so all you have to do is sign on to your bank and opt to allow a certain amount of money to go into those accounts, but not just for retirement, for college and for your health savings account. And, you know, I did this. I had a 50th birthday party not too long ago, actually too long ago, and I wanted to go with my husband and both of our kids and my mother and my stepdad. We wanted to take everybody to Hawaii, which cost a lot of money, and I didn't want to look at the bill afterwards. And so I just, knowing it was coming up, opened a savings account, started putting some money in it every single month automatically. So by the time we went on this trip, it was all paid for.
Wow.
You know, and it was a much more pleasant experience. I mean, I hate credit card bills when they come in the mail, and I have to like, oh, where am I going to find the money to pay that, right? But
it's very stressful.
It's very stressful.
I would imagine if you take on a big trip like that, and you're worrying about how much it's going to cost, it robs one of the experience of really enjoying the trip.
Well, that's your world.
Yeah, so when you talk about stress impacting how we age, it's really true. I mean,
stress
the quality of our life, and stress can really rob us of the joy in life.
And so much of stress is financial.
It is.
And it's not just credit card debt, although credit card debt is way up there. It's feeling like your job is on a rocky path, or losing a spouse, or getting divorced, or having to move. I mean, all these things, they're not all financial events, but they are all financial in part. And they're hugely stressful.
How can somebody know that they are safe financially? Let's assume they're really good at taking care of their health. They go to the gym, they make that habitual, they stay away from whatever it is they need to stay away from to stay at the right weight, they go to the doctor on a regular basis. But finances is something a little bit different because they think it's math, and it is scary, and so people don't have conversations. And listen, there was this study I read, and I thought it was so true. I know it was true of me. And I don't want to walk around naked. But they said that people would rather walk around naked.
I'm not walking around naked.
Than show their bank statements.
I think that, well, I don't know, maybe that's true.
I would rather walk around naked. And I don't even like to look at myself while I'm walking around naked. But I think I would.
You do?
Well, listen,
I think I wouldn't. By the way, I just put me in the wood. My friend Diane was telling me we went for a run this morning, and she was telling me that she and her husband were just in Hawaii, and they went to this beach on a Sunday night at the end of the weekend, and there were all these people playing the drums, and it was like a naked party. And I was like, I just would not go to that party.
I don't know that I go to that party, but the thought, there's a lot of self-esteem connected with finances. And there's some shame, and there's, competing with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And
no, you're absolutely right.
Wanting to seem a certain way. I mean, I certainly hear about it in my practice, in terms of people assessing where you fit into the scheme of things.
And it's all very relative, right? It's not about absolute numbers.
Right.
It's really about, how do I measure up to my neighbor? How do I measure up to my sister? How do I measure up to my college roommate? It's all of that.
That's right. And then people basically say to themselves, they say, I'm doing well in life, I'm not doing well in life. So I think that also can contribute to what they decide to do. And I know when we were coordinating this segment, one of the producers said, listen, I would love to know how to answer this question. How do you know whether to save for the future or get a new kitchen? Like, how do you know if that's a smart decision to make as opposed to making an impulsive decision?
I think it's a really good question. And there are guidelines about how much you should have at certain ages when you're saving for retirement. So by age 30, you want to have about 1 times your current income.
Okay.
By 40, 3 times. By 50, 6 times.
Oh, wow.
By 60, 8 times. And by the time you retire, 10 times.
Okay.
All right. Now, those are marks, and a lot of people are going to think, oh.
And that works.
That works. So they've
run
the numbers. It works for people who earn between $50,000 and $300,000 a year. And those numbers were set up by Fidelity Investments to replace 45% of your pre-tax income.
Okay.
Another chunk will come from Social Security. Okay. And you don't have to replace all of it because you don't have to replace what you're saving. Right? The money that you're saving is not disposable income that you're using on a regular basis. So that's how it typically works. And those numbers do work. And we also see that people are a little bit able to roll with the punches, which I think is a really wonderful realization. If people have some of their retirement money invested in the markets, and you need to for the long term these days, and the markets are down a little bit, people live a little less lean, a little more leanly during those times, retirees. Yeah. And when the markets are flusher, they take an extra vacation. But it's good that we're seeing that people are cognizant and able to change. What you do need to do, if you look at these numbers and you think, oh my God, I am not even close, is figure out what you have to do to get your savings rate up, because you will need more money.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess you can't always rely on the fact that you're going to be healthy enough to work, or that there's going to be a job out there for you if you do want to continue to work. So it's great when people can work indefinitely, but I guess that's not something. I guess you always want to play it safe, right?
I think you do. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly better than the alternative.
Yes.
Right? It's certainly better to have some money left at the end of life. I know there was a famous book called Die Broke, right?
Die Penniless.
Die Broke. Stephen Pollan, who is a wonderful guy, and I used to see him on CNBC. He wrote this book. It was a huge bestseller. Oh. And basically he said the last check you write should be to the underwriter, and that should bounce.
Funny.
And so a lot of people, my stepdad still quotes that. That's how he wants to go out. But I would rather there be enough of a cushion left over so that I'm not worried at age 95.
And also, if you can give something to your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I did raise my son to be very successful, so just in case, worst case scenario, he can support me.
There you go.
Worst case, but you can't depend on that.
That works.
All right. So we have this little fun segment called Keeping It Real.
Okay.
And these are just kind of fun questions. So hopefully you'll find them fun.
Okay.
How would you describe yourself in 5 words?
I don't know. How would I describe myself?
No,
that doesn't count. I'm thinking.
Should we go to the next question, or should I torture you?
Yes, go to the next question. Okay. I don't know how to describe myself in 5 words.
You.
No, I'm smart.
Okay.
I'm going to quote The Help.
Reliable. Loyal. Talented.
Yeah.
Fun.
I'm fun. I am fun.
You see why I'm a therapist. I help people fill in the words when I need to. Okay. If your life were a movie, what would the title be?
The Long and Winding Road?
I like that.
How about that?
Who would play you?
Well, So I have there are a number of celebrities that people say I look like depending on how I'm wearing my hair, and some of them are really good.
Oh, good.
Some of them are really good. I'll share.
Okay.
People can weigh in and tell me on Facebook that they think I look nothing like this celebrity.
Say nice things. It's my Facebook.
So I've been told that I look like Caroline Kennedy.
Okay.
I've been told I look like Marissa Tomei. And I have a picture. I do look a lot like Marissa Tomei in The Lincoln Lawyer.
Okay.
I've been told I look like Elizabeth Hurley, which I do not believe.
That's such a nice compliment.
And Sandra Bullock occasionally.
I could see that.
So
yeah. So any of
I'm going with Marissa Tomei.
I think that would be a good choice.
Okay.
I mean, I see the similarity. Yeah. Okay. All right. The Long Unwinding Road with Marissa Tomei.
There you go.
Movie. There you go. Okay. What is your favorite word in the English language? Will we be surprised?
Souffle.
Souffle. Wow, that shocked me. Now I thought you were going to say save. Souffle.
I just think it's a fun word.
Oh, it is a fun
and
word.
It's kind of effervescent.
Yeah, it sounds a little. Is it French?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't speak
Do you
French.
Cook?
I do cook.
Okay.
I don't.
Have you cooked a souffle?
I have. Not in a while.
More impressive things about Jean Chatzky. Her next book.
Souffle.
Have a cookbook budget? Have you ever thought about that?
I have thought about it. Because I think it's more than a cooking problem.
Yeah.
I think it's a shopping problem and a time management problem. And yes, I have thought about this.
Maybe that'll be your 11th book.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll let you promote this one first.
Okay, thank you.
All right, one last one. What do you think is the ultimate waste of money? Don't say jewelry. You might have a problem.
No, I think anything that you can't remember why you bought 2 days later. And I think that's different for everybody. I mean, I get caught. There's my language revealing itself. People stop me in Starbucks because they can't believe I'm in Starbucks. But I like my coffee. You know what? And I can afford to buy that cup of coffee. And
I can't believe people ask you. You know why? Because I think you did a segment, and I watched it,
where you add up all those coffees.
Starbucks versus the non-Starbucks.
But here's the thing: like, it's my job, very much like it's your job, to make people more conscious of how they're using their resources. You want to buy what you want to buy. Right. Jewelry. Yeah. Great. Fine. Just save for college too.
But what's nice about Jean is when you are talking to her about money, you really make it feel doable.
Oh, thank you.
So it's like you don't get this hopeless feeling, oh, it's too overwhelming. You break it down and you really make everyone feel that they can be financially healthy.
Because they can.
Yeah.
Because if I can do this and I was an English major, anybody can do this.
Well, you do it well. Nobody does it like you.
Thank you.
You are amazing. I'm thrilled to have you. I think
Thank
everybody
you.
should go
Thank
out
you.
and get age proof. I'm sure it's everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Are you speaking about this book?
Yeah, I've been out and about speaking about this book.
Okay, so, just follow Jean and listen to her podcast. You have interesting entrepreneurs and guests on all the time talking
including
about money.
Robbie, so you can find her episode.
And we had great fun doing that. We had such a good time. And thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to switch it up and talk about crime next week, crime and murder. But for today, think about finances, and this is great. Health and finances, it all can be yours. Read the book, you'll get it, and we'll see you next week.